we recognize that reproductive justice has so many aspects. It ranges from women being able to make decisions on their bodies, full body autonomy, to women deciding whether they want to have or not have children, to women accessing adequate and full medical care when they miscarry or during ectopic pregnancies that is not without judgment, to young girls who are struggling with access to menstrual pads and feminine hygiene products, and so many different aspects. And sometimes just as we think we've made a step forward, we find ourselves, we discover that there are so many we're lagging behind, and we keep going behind. And that is not to discourage us, because we are on the path. We continue to work towards that time. I don't know when it will be. Maybe when the Messiah comes, but until then, we have a big job to do. We will have two speakers tonight, myself and Todd Kay, who I will invite in a minute, because as I've just spoken a little bit about, there are different aspects to reproductive justice. And I'm going to speak a little bit about why we celebrate Repro Shabbat on this, during this week where we read from Parashat Mishpatim. And so in Parashat Mishpatim, the Torah we have so many different laws, about 53 laws, and as the saying goes, Judaism is always in the details. And so it's from this law that we have debated over centuries, and we have figured out and came to a conclusion in the halakha that indeed it's not only permissible for women to have an abortion or to end a pregnancy for various when their lives are at risk, it is in most cases required. So what in this parasha are these verses? In Parashat Mishpatim, the Torah presents two difficult, maybe hypothetical scenarios and their repercussions or judgment on what happens when these scenarios occur. So two men are fighting, and accidentally they strike a pregnant woman. In the first case, if the loss is of a fetus, is only the fetus, the consequence is a monetary fine paid to the woman's husband. Troubling, of course, to our modern ears, but reflective of the social and legal realities of that time. The second case, if the woman herself is harmed or killed, the punishment is far more severe and retributive. An eye for an eye, a nefesh for a nefesh, a life for a life, or a soul. So from these verses, our tradition has long understood that the pregnant woman is the one who possesses the full status of a nefesh, or a soul, or personhood. And the fetus, while of profound value and potential, does not hold the same legal status as the woman who is pregnant. This distinction becomes fundamental in the development of our Jewish law over time. Of course, like many Torah verses, we have studied this verse, debated it, expounded on it, interpreted across generations, and rabbinic literature has always struggled with the questions: at what stage does a fetus gain greater status, or what constitutes as a threat to a woman's life? Does it only include a physical threat or danger, or is it also the mental and emotional well-being of the woman as well? Yet one principle emerged, and it's halakha, that Judaism not only permits the termination of a pregnancy when the life of a mother is at risk, it requires it. The life and the well-being of this person that is being presented before us, the woman, precedes that of the fetus. The Union for Reform Judaism asserts that these questions, although profound and, for our tradition, these questions of where life begins is a matter of religious belief and not medical or legal fact. The Union resolved in 1975, while we recognize the right of religious groups other than Judaism whose beliefs differ from ours to allow that which dictates of their faith in this matter, we vigorously oppose the attempt to legislate the particular belief of these groups into law that govern all of us. I want to read this commentary from Rabbis Fixler and Langowitz, who write in the Social Justice Torah commentary. Every family has stories of reproductive choice. Some are shared between mothers and daughters, between parents and children. Others are kept secret or lost. Our work of justice is rooted in the telling of these stories. Because for every woman who is caught in the fight between two men, there is one who is miscarrying at home, and one in a strange land, one in a happy marriage, and one whose relationship is violent, one alone and one surrounded by family, one desperately wanting to save the fetus, and one desperately wanting to get rid of it. Every pregnancy has its own story and with its ending. Each time we listen with compassion and curiosity to a new narrative. We strengthen our ability to discuss pregnancy and its termination without judgment, guided by the voices of those who have actually experienced it. Sharing these stories has the power to uplift marginalized voices and create public empathy and awareness. I do long for a time where we do not have Repro Shabbat, because that will mean that this is the time where everybody, one, must not fight for their right to make deeply personal medical decisions. It will mean that women can make decisions whether to have children or not. It will mean that those who make the very difficult decision to end a pregnancy receive support without stigma. Those who experience any other miscarriage are adequately cared for, and so on, including those who seek for fertility treatments like IVF. But until then, we listen, we tell our stories, we advocate, and we firmly stand behind our tradition that recognizes the women's autonomy in these decisions. We also recognize that reproductive justice encompasses many aspects, and not more than abortion and pregnancy. It includes a full range of conditions that allow women to live with dignity and bodily autonomy. One case that is usually overlooked is period poverty. Around the world, we are still grappling with the reality that many women and girls lack access to affordable, safe menstrual products, adequate hygiene facilities, and education. And without these essentials, menstruation can become a source of shame, a taboo that is not spoken about. We have girls missing school days, lost wages, and very preventable health risks. And this is not just a global issue. We know that it's an issue here in the US as well. It's a local issue as well as all over the world. We raise awareness of these stories and also of wonderful organizations that are adequately working to make changes in these women's lives. So to that point, it's my honor to invite up Todd Kay, a physician and longtime Betham member. Todd Kay, alongside other 20, oh my goodness, other travelers to Uganda on our recent trip to Uganda. We were all inspired by a small but wonderful organization that we visited on our trip that is helping girls stay in school by helping them to learn how to make their own menstrual pads. So thank you, Dad.
Well, question, why is this? Is that better? Oh, okay. Question, why is this Repro Shabbat service different than all other Repro Shabbat services? On all other Repro Shabbat services, we have women speaking. Why tonight is a man speaking? And on all other Repro Shabbat services, we usually talk about abortion rights. Why tonight am I talking about menstrual pads? Well, the answer to these questions lies in the wisdom of the organizers of tonight's service, the wonderful Linda Kramer, and of course our wonderful Rabbi Shoshana Nambi. They recognize that reproductive freedom is not a woman's issue, it's a human issue, important to men as well as women. So Linda and Rabbi Nambi, thank you for inviting me to speak tonight. And as Rabbi Nambi has already mentioned, that reproductive freedom is more than just the freedom to choose. But if I'm not going to talk about abortion rights, why am I talking about menstrual pads? So the answer to that question lies in a crisis that we learned about on the wonderful and amazing trip we took to Uganda with Rabbi Nambi back in December. Let's see if we can get... Yeah, well, we can do without pictures. Oh, there we go. Well, actually, maybe, Patrick, I'll just have it. Can you advance? Yeah. So in rural Uganda, 1 out of 3 girls stops going to school forever after their first menstrual period. And next, girls will miss up to 20% of the school year because of their menstrual period. And why is this the case? It's up to 1 out of 4 girls in Uganda cite the fear of bullying and being harassed around their menstrual period. And it's actually not just the boys who do the harassment. I was horrified to learn that the teachers also participate in this humiliation. So this certainly is a major problem, a horrible problem, but there's hope. And if we could go to the next slide, please. Thanks to a wonderful person in the slide, there are things that are being done. There are actually 2 wonderful people in the slide. Most wonderful is my wife, Julie. But I know you didn't come here to hear about how wonderful my wife is, so I'll talk about the man in the middle. That's Saleh Nimya. He is the owner and the director of a travel company in Uganda. He's the one that arranged our trip and carried it out and was with us for the entire week. And the wonderful man that he is, he takes the great majority of the profits from his travel business and uses them to fund support and social services throughout Uganda. And his main goal is to help keep girls in school. In his creative wisdom, he's designed reusable menstrual pads. And I'll be showing you how they're assembled. And this allows girls to have their menstrual pads and try to avoid some of the humiliation that they have gone through before. So he travels around rural Uganda delivering these pads to girls who are in puberty age. But perhaps even more importantly, he spends hours with them teaching them how they can make their own menstrual pads that are washable with locally available materials. His goal is that when he and his colleagues leave, there's no girl who goes out without a menstrual pad after that. And there's another important angle that he addresses. He spends an equal amount of time with the boys, teaching them that menstruation is a natural biologic process, not something to make fun about. And he turns potential bullies into supportive allies. And if that weren't enough, he invites teachers, doctors, engineers, and the like to their schools with the hope that if the students can see people from their own background being successful, this will inspire girls and boys to stay in school and to dream bigger dreams than their current situation. And those of us on the trip to Uganda got to see this in person. We met a medical student from a tiny village in remote Uganda. We met a newly graduated lawyer. We met a young man who went to agricultural school and is now teaching his village members how to grow cash crops so they can earn some extra money to live on, and not just raise crops for their daily life. So let me move on and tell you how these menstrual pads are made, but before that, I should mention Saleh's wonderful overall motto, and that's at his Casa Uganda Foundation. He doesn't just prevent a pad, he prevents hope and a future. So these menstrual pads are made of three main components. There's an outer shell, there's an absorbent core, and then there's a leak barrier. And if we could have the next slide, that just is the name of Saleh's wonderful foundation, Casa Uganda Foundation. And as we go on, we'll see the components of the pads. This is the outer shell, although usually it's a darker material for the privacy of the girls. The next slide will show the templates that are used to cut out the pieces inside these pads. Next slide shows the absorbent core, usually cotton, sometimes fleece, or even flannel. And finally, we have the leak barrier. This is a breathable and waterproof material, kind of like a plastic type material. And let me show how these are assembled, so if we could move on. It starts with taking these templates and tracing out the pattern for the components that they're making. You can see this is a two-person job, one person to hold the material flat and even and to help hold down the template, and the other person is also holding down the template and tracing out the markings. And then on the next slide, we see the next step, again, a two-person job where we're cutting out the fabric based on the markings from the template. And again, this is a two-person job. We have the wonderful Susan Kramer doing a great job holding out the material, keeping it flat and tight so that the other person can cut out the shape appropriately. And this is the absorbent pad. A similar process goes through for the leak barrier. And then usually there are three of the absorbent layers put on top of the leak barrier, and they're all sewed together to keep everything intact. And finally, the next picture, and you could start the video. That inner component is put with two parts of the outer shells on either side, and you can see here they're being sewn all together to make the final pad. Now, those of you who sew may notice this is what we would call an old-fashioned foot pedal powered sewing machine, but this is what they have. And when the girls are making their own pads, they're hand stitching these together. So I think you can appreciate this is a very labor-intensive process. With no disrespect to the people who do the sewing, the actual time-consuming component is marking the fabrics and cutting them out. And we'll talk about why that's important in a little bit. And then finally, there should be one more slide that shows the final product here. So this is what the girls use after either they've been given their pad or when they're making their pad. And the idea is when big sister learns how to do this, then hopefully she teaches little sister, and this gets perpetuated. So a very sustainable model. Now, before I move on, I just have to show the next clip, the next video. It's a song that Saleh and his colleagues wrote. I bet you've never heard a song about menstrual pads before. The song is fun, but what's really important is what he describes after the song, the intent of having a song about menstrual pads. So most of the song is in their native language, but I think you'll be able to understand the end and then to listen to Saleh's explanation. So if we could play the video.
So you can tell who stole and who composed and who sang. But that is a song we came up with after our first outreach. And we said, but why don't we come up with a song that can tell a story? It seems these young people love music, and it could be a very nice catchy one, but also a very perfect way of sending the message. And the song is all about saying, you want to say it in English?
The song, basically the message goes back to teach girl child how to make their own sanitary pads. And I had to deliver the message in different languages, our local language, and then Kiswahili, because Kiswahili is captured a lot in East Africa. So we need the market to be wide and in English as well. Yeah.
Yeah, so the song is all about telling the girl that I knew about your story, okay? You have to learn how to make for yourself a sanitary pad, because I heard about your story and I'm here to share your plight. I'm here to give you a shoulder to lean on. And that's what brings me here. You need to learn how to make a sanitary pad. We'll go through that later. Dora?
So now you've heard a song about sanitary pads. So I don't know about you, but I've been at many inspiring lectures and traveled on trips that get you all fired up. We've got to do something, and then nothing happens. But that's not going to happen here. Under the leadership of wonderful Susan Kramer and with help from my wife Julie, Beth on Women is going to sponsor a program, and if we could have the next slide, called Let Girls Learn. You can see the date and time, March 29th, starting at noon. It'll be in the Beit Kahila, and we will gather and we will trace out and cut out all the components, the outer shell, the absorbent layer, the leak barrier, and then we'll send them on to Casa Uganda Foundation, and they'll then sew them together and deliver them to girls throughout rural Uganda. So this is not only going to save them the cost of the materials, which to them is not trivial by any means, but probably even more importantly, it's going to save them countless hours of tracing and cutting, because that really is the labor-intensive part. And you probably couldn't see in the pictures, but they're cutting these out with a razor blade because sharp scissors are in short supply, but they really make do. So I hope you'll all be able to join us and help out. But as Rabbi Nambi's already mentioned, it turns out that lack of sanitary pads is not just a problem somewhere else. Rabbi Nambi had contacted Jewish Family and Children's Services and asked them what their main needs are. And they mentioned that feminine hygiene products were high on their list, even in our country. So on the next slide, we have a mitzvah day coming up. And for that mitzvah day, we are encouraging, before that, all Beth Am congregants to bring feminine hygiene products here. And then on the mitzvah day, we'll be preparing them and packaging them so Jewish Family and Children's Services can deliver them, again, in our community. And these projects just do fit so well, we realize it really makes sense to do them on the same day. So you only have to come once. There is something we all can do to help, and you don't even have to donate money. We just want your time. And for those of you like me who need everything written out, there'll be flyers in the foyer where it's got the date and the time. And then on the last slide, I just want to tell you something hot off the press. Just as of last night, we now have a new Beth Am fund. We're calling it the Uganda Fund. Its goal is to support the Abba Yudaya community in Uganda, about 2,000 Jews there currently. They have not an easy existence, but they're amazingly proud Jews and very observant Jews. So this is a fund that we'll all be able to donate to. As of now, it's not on the website specifically listed. We'll get it there. As I said, it was just approved last night. But if you do want to donate to this fund, you'll have to designate for the Uganda Fund. But my closing message to you is we can do this, and we're going to help at home and help abroad. Shabbat Shalom.